Hi everyone, and welcome to my 10 questions with video series where I ask working virtual assistants all about their business. Question 1, who are you? Tell me about your business.
Hi, Joe. Hi, everyone. And thank you for having me, Joe. It's lovely to be here. My name's Sarah Szekir-Papasavva, and my business is called Apt Virtual Assistance. And I help small business owners with a wide range of admin and creative assistance as a solo VA, which means I don't have associates, apart from my two lovely holiday cover VAs. Um, I set up in 2018, so I'll be celebrating 7 years in business this year in May. And I'm based in London, in North London, where I live with my husband and my daughter, who's almost 8 years old. Oh, and I'm originally from Brazil, but I grew up in England from the age of 10.
Marvelous, hence the name that I never try and pronounce because I'm not going to even go there. Yeah, I would get it wrong. So, question 2, what did you do before you became a virtual assistant?
So I originally trained in fine arts. I have a degree in painting and I have a master's degree in digital arts. So I love the creative side of things and all things tech. And I'd had a variety of jobs in hospitality, teaching English. I worked in museums and galleries, and I briefly ran a small arts and crafts business. But I eventually developed a career as a PA, and then I trained as an EA. And that was actually my last corporate job before becoming a VA. So I worked as the EA of the director of a property development company in central London. And although I really enjoyed the job, the hours were very, very demanding. So when I started a family, I realized that if I'd stayed in my full-time job, working 8:30 to 6:30, 1 hour's travel each way, I'll just basically never see my daughter awake. Yeah. So I had to make a tough decision when I was on maternity leave. I started researching, thinking about my options, and that's when I discovered about virtual assistants and first came upon your website, so the VA handbook. And suddenly I realized I had this great opportunity. Not only could I combine two of my passions, the creative side and the admin, but I could work from home. I could work flexibly, and I could then combine the creative, the admin, and offer those tasks. So that's what first led me to the VA world. And your resources, Joe, were instrumental in then getting me started quickly and successfully.
I'm really happy to hear that. Thank you very much. How lovely. So, question 3, what was your biggest fear about setting up your business? How did you overcome that?
So I think my biggest fear was the classic, is this going to work? So I had a 1-year-old as a first-time mum home with me all day. And then I had this whole new baby to look after in my business. I was very lucky that the director that I supported did keep the door open for me. So in case I wanted to return, and I really appreciated that because although I believed in myself and I believed in the business, it was a scary step to take. So I think what really helped was having set up well, really well, right from the beginning. So having everything in place, talking about contracts, insurance, my pricing sorted, websites. It hugely helped me to then just concentrate on getting clients, on the marketing, and then doing the work. And within that, I think having clear boundaries and expectations really set out from the start, having good communication with clients, also important, as you know. So I invested time in really thinking about what kind of business I wanted to run. I thought about my values, what type of client I wanted to work with. So I felt that I had some control, even though, it's hard to know what's going to happen and which clients you're going to get. But I think that made it less scary and more of an exciting adventure into building something that brought me joy as well as, being financially um, providing and obviously giving me the flexibility that I wanted. So I think that quickly overcame the fear and let me really go for it without looking back. It hasn't been an easy journey. I've gone from, having client calls during nap times at the beginning and no childcare to now having a really good network of support in place and being able to travel and work and train, which has been amazing.
It's interesting that you said about the boundaries and deciding what type of business that you wanted to run, because I found that that doesn't often occur to people. They don't know that it's like that saying, you don't know what you don't know. And I'm really happy you've said that, because many people, they look at the practical aspects, getting the contract in place, what my service is going to be, how much am I going to charge, and they don't think, when am I going to do this work? If I take on this type of work, then when am I going to do that? If I have to check someone's emails 5 times a day, but I also need to do the school run, and then they get into the trap where they start taking on work, and then they realize they haven't, not only do they not have a business model that doesn't suit them, they didn't actually work out what their business model was even going to be. And then they've got clients, and then they're like, well, I can't let them down now. And before, I've used the analogy before about riding a tiger, that sometimes it then feels that you've created this business that's a tiger and you're hanging on for dear life, and it's taking you everywhere. And actually it's because you didn't decide what it was going to look like before you started. And often, I mean, how do you know that if you have never worked for yourself? Yeah, I've seen that happen with people, and they're like, oh God, like, what do I do now? And it's like, oh, you got to backpedal. You have to backpedal, and that can be quite
It can be hard, can't
daunting.
it? Yeah, afterwards, because we just get so busy once it starts going. So yeah, that's why I think having that time, and as I say, I was on maternity leave, so I had a bit of time. I was lucky, in a way. There was that pressure. Okay, maternity is ending. What am I going to do? And but it did give me the opportunity to think, and I'm really glad I took that time to actually consider all of these things and look what, because as you say, we don't know what we don't know exactly, but if you can look at other businesses that inspire you, that will give you ideas. And then you can start and shape. And I think that's what was exciting for me as I was building the website, because I did it myself because I love the creative side. I was thinking about all these things and how do I want this business to be and take shape. So for me, that's the exciting part.
It's true. And also, I think when people start out, they think, how do I want it to look? And they expect that it's going to look like that forever. And I'm like, oh no, it will just change organically. You might rebrand, you might change your services, because you'll learn new things as you go along anyway. And, don't worry about it. But I think that the type of person that a virtual assistant is, that attracts somebody to the profession, they like to know what they're doing. They like to know what's what. They're kind of quite control freaks, which makes them very good virtual assistants, but can be difficult when it comes to running a business, because you have to be both. You have to know how
Yes.
to be a bigger picture person and run a business, but also how to be a VA and detail orientated and do work. And those two things are quite different.
Yes, but very important to adapt, as you said, because things will change. You will change. So it's
Yes,
nothing set in stone, and it's good to remember that as well.
exactly. Question 4: how has your life changed since you became a virtual assistant?
It's changed massively, but in exactly the way I wished it would. So, in terms of flexibility, I'm able to be present in my daughter's life, which is priceless for both of us. I can go on school trips, do drop-offs, pickups. As you know, I've just returned from her singing concert this afternoon, which was amazing. And also, I feel so much more passionate about my working life, more than I've ever been in any other job. And it's partly because it's my business, so it's really satisfying to be shaping it, making the choices, and building something to my vision. But also because I also feel very fulfilled in working with clients whose businesses I feel aligned with and helping them overcome challenges and achieve more and grow their own businesses. That's been really inspiring for me and brings me great joy. And reflecting back, although I'm still ridiculously busy, my friends and family would tell you, I also feel like I can do so much more with my time than in my previous job because my days are so varied now. I'm 100% virtual, so I can work from anywhere. I can manage my days to include things like lunch meetings with clients, lovely coffee meetings with other VAs, and travel to conferences and networking. So, although I have a great routine, I'm very structured, no 2 days are the same. And that means they're never boring. So I love that.
I also really like that. I mean, we were just saying before I hit record that, you know, the plumber's been here all day, and not a euphemism. The plumber's been here all day doing stuff. This morning I dropped Monty off at his little friend's. He's been there all day. So I drove across the city just after rush hour. I waited until just 9 o'clock. So the roads were quieter. And then I've just been to pick him up. I'm here for the Amazon delivery that's just come as well. You know, we moved the interview slightly so that you could attend your daughter's singing concert. Was it a concert,
Yes,
you
it
said?
is.
Yeah,
Yes.
how wonderful. So both of us have had a day that, you know, it's a working day for most people. And I forget, oh, and also while the plumber was here, I quickly popped to Tesco. I was like, I just need a couple of bits. I'm going to go back in a minute. And so I can just pop into the car, you know, get into the car in the afternoon and go and do a chore or something that I might need. I still have to do my work, of course,
Yeah.
but I do quite like that you don't have to do everything at the same time as everyone else is doing it.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
really nice. What would you say, question 5, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of running your own business?
Yeah, so I touched a little bit on this before of how fulfilling it feels to be creating and growing a business that is then aligned with my mission, my vision, my values. I'm very committed to my CSR. That's my corporate social responsibility. So I have a few aims within that. I have a paperless office. Truly, there's no paper. And I love being able to do that. Um, I support women in business. My clients are predominantly women-led businesses. I also support local small businesses as much as I can. I'm based in North London, so we have a great community of small businesses where I live. And I also support creative opportunities due to my background and my passion for the arts. So I support a social enterprise that works with underrepresented talent to help them access the creative industry more easily. Um, so this is very rewarding to me to be able to uphold these values and implement them within my business. And I think there's so much more opportunity to do things like that when you run your own business, so much potential for collaboration and partnerships. I've recently started hosting a local networking meeting for London-based VAs. It's actually in the same place. I don't know if you remember, Joe, where we met once. I think it was 2020, just before the pandemic, in King's Cross, and it was a meeting of the lovely VA Rockstars, one of your groups. So yes, as you know, I'm in all your Facebook groups. I love them. But it's about sharing, meeting other VAs and sharing those experiences, learning from each other, and um, of course, learning from VA trainers like yourself. I just really love how the VA industry is with collaboration over competition all the way. That's really rewarding to be a part of. And of course, I've been very lucky in the recognition I've had over the years in my business in terms of awards. I've collected 12 in the almost 7 years that I've been in business. I'm very grateful for that. And it's really nice, also very rewarding to see my clients champion that as well.
Wow. Well, I'm just going to get my coat now because, oh my God, that's amazing. I love that. I love that with these interviews, everyone has been so different.
Mm,
They've all been, not only are the people different, you know, what they offer, their family life, um, you know, where they live, the sorts of clients that they service, but their why they did this,
mm,
you know. And I like that yours is so community forward thinking in that way. That's amazing. I do remember I used to run a networking group at one point, way back in the day. And it's funny because I do remember being daunted by networking when I first started out. And there
yes.
was another VA that I spoke to. I can't remember who it was now. Oh, it was Ruth Bruce. And she said that she was scared about with networking, terrified. And now she runs a networking group as well. And so it's funny, it shows how you can really not only even overcome something, but it can become part of your life, something that you create and to really take ownership of, which I really love. And I know that you have won so many awards.
I've been
I
lucky.
wouldn't even bother entering. I'd be like, well, no, she's just going to grab that. So what's the point? You know, when I interviewed Holly, for example, as well, I remember clearly she said, I do have 2 children, but they're not my only why. I did this for myself.
Yes.
And she was at the stable yard with her horses. She was like, "Oh, I go riding. I've got horses now." And I was like, wow, like I need to aim higher. So it's been really interesting to see why people set their business up and what they want to get from it. And I love how different that is for everyone too.
Yeah. And I think it's also inspiring even for my daughter for her to see me as, she loves to say, Mum created this business, and she pretends to type on her computer. And it's a nice, um, I like to think that it's a role model and saying, look what you can achieve. And then I'm helping all these other businesses to see, let's look at what they can achieve. And it's really rewarding to see what we can do together.
I love that. Question 6. On the flip side, what do you feel is the most challenging aspect about running your own business?
Yeah, I think there are many challenges in running a business. If I had to think of the most challenging part, I think it's finding time, or should I say prioritizing time to work on your business. So I am a solo VA, as I said, I don't have associates, which means I'm doing all of the client work myself, which I love. I love doing the work, and this is why I decided that scaling the business as an agency wasn't really for me. I am in awe of VAs who have built teams and grown agencies like Holly that you mentioned, who you've recently interviewed, but also so many great examples. I have spoken to agency owners and really thought about what it was that I loved about the job. And I saw that my passion didn't lie there. The transition to managing a team, stepping away from the VA work is not something that I wanted to do. Maybe this will change in the future. As we said, we're always adapting. But so far, I've explored other ways of growing, of scaling. I talk of it as a scaling sideways rather than upwards, if that makes sense. So it's still something I'm learning about and figuring out, but that's part of the challenge and the fun as well. So yes, I think it's really important to prioritize some time to plan, to audit the business. And this is another reason why I love applying for awards actually, because it's a great way to review what you've achieved and then think about where you're headed. So the application process can be really helpful for that. I also love keeping up with industry updates, reading your updates on AI and new tech, Joe. It's been really helpful. I love reading your newsletters, lots of tips. And I love meeting up with VAs in person, so networking, attending VA conferences. It is a challenge to fit it all in, but I think it's also where the magic happens. So we need to make time for that.
I agree. I feel that when I've been to events, not even necessarily even industry events, but events, or even when I do the co-working, for example, and talk to other VAs, that's when I have ideas. I talk to someone and I'm like, we can discuss a topic and a subject and get feedback from something and just see a little bit of insight into how each other works. And I might mull that over. I've been to different types of events, not just VA events. I sometimes go
Mhm.
to other types of conferences. And again, you're so full of ideas when you leave, when you walk out. And I do remember going to that place in King's Cross, actually. I do
Yeah.
remember that and how we didn't know what was about to hit us
Oh
because we were
gosh.
talking about, like, oh, wouldn't it be good to do a retreat to go away? Like,
Yeah. Not great timing.
the irony. Yeah, the
Yeah.
irony. Well, actually, you're going to be stuck in your house soon, not going anywhere
It's not going anywhere.
for ages and
Little
ages.
did we
Yeah,
know.
I
But a great
know.
idea for
VAs.
the future, maybe. Maybe those plans can resurface.
Maybe, maybe. Yeah, I do find that, like with the Growth Hub, I do find being around those people, it's even though it's great to have the trainees, and help people start their business. For me, I love talking to existing virtual assistants because everyone's so different. Some are corporate EAs, PAEAs, other ones are really techie. They deal with completely different types of services. And I'm like, I have all these questions for them,
Yeah.
finding out how they manage their day, when they work best, where they're getting their information from, how they learn, what they're learning. That I feel that, I need the growth hub. For
Mm.
me, everyone is my peer, and I need to be around people, even if it's just virtually, to grow myself.
Yes, absolutely agree with that. Mm.
for sure. Question 7, how do you get your clients?
Most of my clients come to me from word of mouth and referrals. I love networking, but when I say that, not all types of networking, as we were saying before. I attend a specific monthly networking meeting, which is women only, and I've been a member since I started the business, so almost 7 years now, and I absolutely love it. It's profession dependent, so in my group, I hold the VA seat, and it means I get to network with my ideal clients who are small business owners. There are some types of networking that I don't like so much, so I stick to the ones that I do. But I think it's great to try, because what always learn so much going to these networking meetings. I get a lot of inspiration from meeting other small business owners. As you said, just seeing what other people are doing and where what difficulties they've had, so you can learn and grow. Um, and I think when I go to these meetings, my passion for what I do probably shows through more when I network. So that's why I think most of my clients come as a result of networking, because we get to connect that way. And then they become clients either because they were in the room or because they remembered me and referred me to someone they know. So yes, I think it can be a long game and it's not for everyone. I know people who really don't like networking, so okay, but I found it very valuable for my business. And I've enjoyed most of it.
It's an interesting one, networking, because on one hand, it's great to talk to people and be in the same room as them. People do business with people they know, like, and trust, as they say. And it's how business has always been done, talking to people before the internet, back old school, back in the day.
Mhm.
And it really does work. But I also find that, sometimes people who are really, really busy don't go networking because they're too busy.
Yes.
Also, as well, if you have a very specific type of client, sometimes they're not at the local networking events. You have to go to more industry specific. So I think it's more about having a good strategy, isn't it, with networking, of how you approach it and not. I remember talking to a trainee once, and they were having trouble getting clients, and we talked about networking, and they went networking all the time. And I was like, I couldn't work out. And I eventually, we dug down a bit deeper, and it turned out that they were using networking events for their social life. They had
Oh,
forgotten that they were there to actually get work. They were there to they used them as a friend making exercise. And when we talked about, well, do you follow up? Do you connect with these people? Like, when you have the conversations, they were like, oh, no. So it was more that they were just going along to hang out, and,
yeah,
it wasn't working for them. But once they switched that up and remembered the purpose
yeah,
of networking, then they were off, off like a shot.
yeah,
But that's quite funny as well. Sometimes you find, I think, the right event for you, like you just said, that there's some people love BNI, some people
yes,
like, they hate them. They're like a
yeah,
cult. I've met VAs that say they don't get any work from it, they hate them, or they dislike them and have just never liked them. I've
yeah,
had VAs talk about BNI that have said they went to one place and didn't get any work, but then they moved house and went to a different
mm,
chapter, like it's the
yeah,
Freemasons. Went to a different chapter, and that was it. Suddenly they got all their work from there.
mm,
I've spoken to VAs that say they only go to BNI because they get all their work from there. So it's very
it's
mixed. I think it
varied.
really does depend on where you live, who's in them, maybe luck.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, all of that. And I think also we've got to think that networking skills are a thing. It's something that you can train and get better at. This meeting the network I'm part of, has a section which is all about networking skills. So teaching you to kind of think about your monthly minute in different ways, the elevator pitch. There are different ways it doesn't have to be boring, doesn't have to be a certain way. And also it doesn't have to have the pressure of the referrals. So I do agree that I made amazing friends through networking as well as getting clients from it. So it's um you have to think about what you want to get out of it, and you do have to allow time. We meet once a month, but there's options to go to many more. I don't get the chance to go to many more, but if I wanted to, I could. I would need that time to follow up, to really make those connections, and not just play a numbers game. I think some of the networkings can be a little bit of a numbers game. And especially in our profession, you know, it's based on trust. You've got to make those relationships. You've got to build them. And I think that way networking will work a lot better for you if you're truly investing time to make authentic connections.
Yes, I think also as well, it does depend on the type of event. So
Yeah.
when you have to do a presentation, I've never had to do that. The events I went to did not require a presentation. But sometimes on social media, I'll share these exercises that I've discovered or have created. And there was one, for example, it's called like take a task off your plate. And so you give everyone a piece of paper and get them to write down the task that they hate the most or the one that takes them the most time or whatever it might be. And then you go around and take them on a plate and then read them out. So you give that, and then you explain how you can help with that particular task. So it's quite interactive, and people enjoy it because they don't know if theirs is going to get read out. You know, it's almost like a game. They're quite like they hope that theirs gets read out, and they've not normally seen someone do something like that before as well.
Yeah,
So it shows creativity. So
absolutely.
you're sort of you're literally showing what you can do and how you think and how you work
Yes.
as well, rather than just telling people I'm
Yeah.
creative. Like,
Yes. Or
but like,
yeah, or saying, you know, having to do those salesy pitches, which are not nice, not for us delivering, and I don't think for the people receiving it as well. So my group does have presentations. There's a talk at each meeting, but it's very short. Usually, it's a member of the group, and it shouldn't be about your business. So it's something you can offer. So I've done some on time management on Trello, on things like the benefits of being award winning in these topics. And it's not talking about Apt VA or me as a VA, but it's trying to teach a skill that I've learned or something or tips about how to best use the software. So I think it's people get to know you in a different way. So as you said, being creative with how you use networking and making sure it fits with your business model and your vision. I think that will you aim for success that
yes,
way.
yeah, and I think also with I've got this planner, this 12-month social media planner that I've been. It's a freebie that goes out, and in it I very much talk about what do you know, sharing the tips that you know, and so I'll say like do a post on 5 ways you can use Gmail or how to set up Trello or how I share my passwords or these types of things. And it's the same as what you're doing as a presentation. It's like, can you move that over to social media and
Yeah.
do it as posts instead? They're not all going to get seen as well. So, you know,
Mm.
and VAs know so many things, even just, you know, I think with networking, it's good as well, definitely to get across like, this is who I am, these are my values, this is how I like to work, this is why I do what I do and how I do it. Those things are really, really valuable, but also sharing your knowledge
Yes.
because VAs are just full of information, but they forget. I think they're so used to doing it.
Mhm.
Okay, let's move on. I could just sit here talking to you all day, just about networking alone. So, question 8: what do you wish that you had known when you first started out?
Right. So I think I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm going to say nothing because I'll explain. I think every mistake, every struggle, every failure has its own value because it ends up setting you up for success once you learn from it, once you learn how to move on from it. I'll give you an example. I started offering every kind of service you can think of, personal assistance as well as B2B, all of the things. I don't now. There were so many things I didn't particularly enjoy doing, but I could do. So I offered them because I thought I could get more clients that way. And I slowly learned the importance of having a niche and what that looked like for me. But it did take a while. If I hadn't offered all of those things though, I never would have learnt what I did enjoy. I never, and consequently what my niche should be. So I think we'll never know what we don't know, as we said. The best we can do is learn as much as we can from others who inspire us, um, but also from our own mistakes and not being afraid to make our own mistakes, seeing them as opportunities for learning and then for doing better next time. So yeah, I think I wouldn't change much.
I think that's a great question, and you are completely right. And I even know. with my trainees, for example, I do try to help them avoid making mistakes that I made when I first started out. I also say to them, so sometimes they'll be like, I had a great day, it was amazing. This thing happened, it's woo. And then they forget, they hear that it's going to be ups and downs, but when it's down, they're surprised.
Yeah.
And they catastrophize it. They're like, oh yeah, no, everything's great for the good things, but then it's like, oh my woe is me when something bad happens. And I always try and point out that it wasn't that something bad happened. It was more that just something happened that you either weren't expecting
Mhm.
or that you would rather have not.
Yes, yes.
So it's just something didn't go as you had hoped or had expected or wanted it to go. And actually it's when these things happen that you learn the most. and
Yes.
and I say to them, you're never going to get away with and no mistakes. It's not how life works. There's nothing that you've ever learned in your entire life
Yeah.
that you've done perfectly first time and forever. Like never happened ever. And I did the same. I offered everything out under the sun,
Yeah.
and yeah, that is the only way that you can find out what tasks that you like and what you don't, and who you like to work with and who you don't.
Yeah.
I think though having a little think about it definitely
Yes.
helps you prepare a little bit better,
Yes.
and maybe helps you anticipate that problem
Yeah.
that it
And
might
being
come up.
exactly being clever and learning from others, as you said, there are so many examples out there. So we should pay attention and not make the same mistakes.
Yeah,
But
learning
not
from
be
other
afraid.
people.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think I would give the same answer as you, that I'm very
Mhm.
happy. Again, the whole niche thing, I think people think that a niche is like, this is the only thing I do. It's like, no, it's just, what are you good at? What do you know? What can you incorporate? That low hanging fruit. I hate that term, but
Yes.
it's
Well, yeah.
true. What can you make money from? It's like, but you already know kind of
Yeah.
areas of expertise, I think is a better way to put it, isn't it?
Yes. I think I
Um,
resisted quite a bit. See, I don't want to have a niche. I don't want to narrow too much because then, I'm just offering a very specific thing. But then I understood it wasn't about that. It really helped me with my marketing once I did actually think, well, who's my ideal client what do I want to offer? What are they looking for? Oh, it's this person. Oh, I've just narrowed it down. That's a niche. So it was the thought process that took a little while, but once I got it, I understood how powerful it can be, especially because then you can focus.
you literally can't market your business until you know who you're looking for. Every brand, everybody that sells anything that I'm looking around at in my room, they know who that's for, and it might be a variety of different people, but they understand each persona,
Yeah,
and they understand you've got pain points and desires. So
yeah,
with that person, what is it that they're trying to avoid? What do they not want to happen?
yes,
Burnout, for
yes,
example, to drop the ball when it comes to clients or whatever it might be. And what is it that they are looking to achieve? So they desire something, but they also want to avoid something, or they have a pain point. And all marketing addresses those two things.
yes,
Sometimes one more than the other. Sometimes it's like, you don't want this awful thing to happen to you, because that apparently makes us buy more. We invest more into things we want to avoid, apparently, than things that we desire.
yeah,
um, but I've often used the analogy of going on a trip. You need to know where you're going in order to get there. You can't just drive around and hope to get to Wales. For example, you need to go, where are we going to go? Let's go to Wales. Okay, how are we going to get there? Should we go in the
yeah.
car? Let's go in the car. Should we go in the train? No, let's go by car. Okay. So, it's knowing, having a goal, and then
Yeah. And
getting yourself on that track.
But I think as we start out, it's difficult because I just need a client. I just want someone to work with. As I said, I was there with my 1-year-old and I was thinking, well, I need the clients. So I'm going to offer all the things. But it's only eventually when I started realizing about the niche and then I had the luxury of actually choosing my clients that then I felt comfortable in saying, actually, I don't enjoy this so much. I'm going to drop that service. I'm going to concentrate on this because I can see that there's demand for that. And then you pick and choose. But I think there's a certain point you get to in business where you feel more confident to do that. At the beginning, I think it is hard.
Yes, the VAs I've interviewed have said that. that they know that not everyone is a good fit, or that they're very particular now who they take on and who they do not, before it's often, I hope they pick me, you know, like a date or something. And then you think, hang on, what am I actually looking for? What works for me? And it's funny because there was definitely someone I interviewed, I'm trying to remember who it was. They said that they didn't have a niche. But as they continued talking, it was quite evident that they did. It was the type of person that they worked with. It wasn't particularly the job title of the person or the industry. It was the personality type of the person and the way that that person saw the world, their business, etc. So they did have an ideal client.
Yeah, I think it's nice when you get to the point when you realize that consultation call, when you're having the initial call, works both ways. It's not just the client that's going to say yes, it's whether you're going to say yes.
Exactly, which is why I'm a big fan of the method that I have in my guide, which is deciding who you want to work with and going after them. And that works really well if you have a very specific niche, because they are much easier to find. And then if you work with one type of client that you really like, it's much easier to replicate them and go, well, I'm just going to get lots more of you. I like your tasks. It's easier then to
much easier.
To market yourself, because you've got that person as testimonial, as experience, case study, etc. And once you know who it is that you want to work with, you don't even almost have consultation calls much anymore. You know, they're more, you know already that you're both a good fit, or that person's definitely going to be the type of client that you want to work with without even speaking to them, you know, by stalking them. Online. And I quite like that method, because that you can do that in the evening, you can do that any time. You don't have to leave the house to go networking for that. But it does only work really, I think, if you have, it works with industries specifically. It works very well with an industry specific niche. Question 9, work-life balance. Do you have one?
So my view on work-life balance is that it won't look the same for everyone. So for me, the key thing is to figure out what it looks like for you. So asking yourself, what is your ideal work-life balance? For me, it's making sure I cover all bases on things that matter to me. So in terms of work, it's making sure that I have a sustainable business model that suits me. So considering what I need. For example, I don't have an online booking system, calendar available, because I like to be flexible. I like to move things around and be very adaptable that way. So that's what's best for me. Most of my clients, I recommend having one because it suits them and their business. So another example, some of my clients have children, some don't. So their working hours and their needs are very different. We'll have different rhythms of working together because of that. And that to me is finding balance. In terms of personal life, I try to look after myself as much as possible, practicing what I preach to clients. So working out time for well-being and making sure I have my weekends with my family and boundaries and so on. So I really think the main challenge is identifying what the ideal work-life balance looks like to you. Whether that's more work or more downtime, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be even. I think sometimes people think the balance is even, but for me, it's about understanding what your priorities are so that you can then reach a balance, whatever it is that works for you.
Yes, that's a really good point. I think as well, when I first started out, the balance was very off. You know, I spent a lot more time trying to build the business. And then it's been, you know, I needed to work a lot more then. And I don't have children and I like working. So I do, it is an interesting question as well. The phrase balance, I think, like you said, balance almost feels like it should look like a seesaw, wherever you need it to be, or some scales where you need to balance out, and it doesn't, and it will shift. I have times where I work intensely, and then I might take a week off or some time off or not work as hard for a while. I know that Janet, who does the legal documents, she said that because she likes to work similarly to me, for example, she also doesn't have children. So she sometimes finds that she just really plows into a project. She's so into it that she'll work 12-hour days. But then the next day she's knackered. So what she does is she works every other day. instead. But when she does work, she does 12-hour days, and then the next day she doesn't work at all. And I don't know if she still does that, but I remember talking to her within the last 6 months, and she said that that was how she worked. And I was like, oh, I'm always trying out different types
Yeah.
of methods too, personally, because I don't have the children. But I think if you are somebody that has commitments, you know, you have children of specific ages, and that again, that those commitments change apparently depending on the age of the child.
Yeah.
From what I could gather, the
Yeah.
things that they need to go to and
Yeah.
attend and those types of things
Yeah. And
means that
sometimes,
that balance
yeah, and
changes.
we're all so different, as you said. Some of my clients are really fast paced and they get a lot done. Other clients need time to reflect on the ideas and see what they want to do. So, you know, different paces, and we're like that. So I love doing creative work late at night sometimes. That's when I'm most creative. It's always been like that from uni time. So sometimes I might do some work, especially for my own business, mostly for my own business, creative work gets done at late at night. That doesn't mean, you know, that I'm working too hard or you know, anything like that. It just means that I'm going with what suits me. And I think that's what we can't really compare one person's work-life balance or another word that couldn't be better suited is not someone else's. And I think being aware of that, then you can find the ideal thing for you.
I Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I sometimes work at the weekend. It depends what I'm working on, but also, you know, because I have the communities, no
Mm.
one's in the Facebook group, particularly at weekends, right? There a lot of women with children and they're with their
Yeah.
families. So I can sneak into the group and do research or do stuff that I might need to do in there without getting caught up and going, oh, I've been tagged. Like, well, let me read this thing, or oh, what's happening here? Let me get involved and find out
Mhm.
I've forgotten what I'm doing. But it's also really interesting how people perceive that. They might go, oh, don't want to work too hard. And I'm like, no, because I didn't work on Wednesday. And I'm quite happy with that mix that I choose. Also, we had in the Growth Hub, we had that leaky bucket workshop that I held. And one of the concepts that came up was working when it most suits your biology.
Yeah.
And for me, it was funny to hear that because I'm most creative first thing in the morning. There's no way I can do any type of creative thing in the evening.
Oh,
Maybe
wow.
with images, maybe when it comes to like creating images, that type of thing. So maybe visual, but
Yeah.
not writing, not
No,
creative.
yeah.
I need to be able to do that in the morning. So I love that you're like, and another VA said the same thing that they did that stuff late at night. And I thought, wow, but yeah, so doing it when it suits you is a luxury, I think, that a lot of people don't have.
Yes, absolutely. Something you can incorporate when you run your own business.
Exactly. And a final question, question 10. What advice do you have for anyone who is considering virtual assistants as a career?
I think that apart from making sure you have everything you need in place, as we've spoken about, basic things like knowing your prices and having your contracts ready, being ICO registered, having insurance, all of those things, even having your contact details ready to give out. And of course, doing your DIY course, Joe, you tick all of those boxes. But then to me, the most important thing is to fully realize that once you become a VA, running your own business, you have essentially two jobs. The first will be the VAing, the doing the work, providing the service to clients, and then the other will be running the business and being a small business owner. So for me, this was great because I love the freedom of being my own boss, of creating the rules, having the flexibility to fit it all around my family. However, the fact is that running your own business takes up a lot of time, doesn't it? So you still, and then you still have your clients to support. So my main advice would be make sure you have realistic expectations of the hard work you'll have to put in before you get to the other side and get to reap the benefits. So making sure you build time to work on your business, for training, for learning, for having those important moments to reflect on where you are and where you're going, including applying for awards. That takes time too. And as we said, nothing is ever perfect, and all businesses have ups and downs. But if you are thinking about being a VA, and you're watching, I'd definitely recommend giving it a go. So far, it's been the best job I've ever had. I only had to go and create it for myself.
Well, I have nothing to add to that. That's a perfect answer for anyone who's thinking about it. Thank you so much for being interviewed. It's just an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Jo. It's been lovely.